Thank you everyone for coming. Welcome to both the people in person and those who have dialed in online. It's really good to be here and to talk all things TikTok, social media marketing, and just how the landscape has changed. Let's start with who we are and why we're here. So, as Reese astutely said, my name's James. I run a company called SHOGUN Social, and we help businesses post more like content creators. That's the whole 9 yards. It's focusing organic first and helping bring businesses more into the new age, being more authentic and down to earth. And mainly it's because we spotted a bit of a problem that a lot of businesses tend to be a bit boring, disconnected, and don't take social as seriously as they could. And I worked in marketing for 3 or 4 years before I started the business anyway. The business has been going 2.5 years now, and we have been going from strength to strength. We now have a team of 12 under us now, which is amazing, all done completely organically, no spend, just the right product, right time, and using organic social at our disposal as well. And the main crux of it all is to help businesses define and leverage who they are as individuals and people, because often people, individuals, they are the X factor in a business that can differentiate it from the competition. So it's all about making sure we can take authenticity into something practical. And just so you know some of my background, I've worked with businesses like HSBC, Samsung, B&Q, EE, stuff like that. But no matter where I was, at what scale or what part of the marketing mix, again, I'm looking at social media and how it's used at the top level and being very confused about where we are right now. Because I'd say all of those brands on the board, although as much as I love them and I'm working with them, I don't think they've nailed organic social media properly. I don't follow them or think of them the same way I do as my favorite YouTuber or TikToker or anything else. And I think that's the disconnect. There's some of the clients we work with now to help them transform how they think about social and use it going forward. And really, we need to look at how to change the landscape and how to really make social media just a bit more normal and human, for God's sake. And this is the team I've gathered to help us do it. I'm very grateful to have these people behind us. They're the people that make the magic happen. And I've tried to build our team in terms of looking for the social media Avengers. So I'm looking for the top people in their field, not only on the court, but off the court, to use a basketball reference. And really that's looking at each of these people have a side hustle or that are content creators in their own right outside of work, which I absolutely love. So Liv, our creative director, has a film and script community that has near 30,000 members in it. Freddie, our operations and finance manager, yes, our finance manager, has a football fan pages for the Saints Club up Southampton. That is over 50,000 between the two. So, and everyone has their own thing going on, and it's really, really fascinating to see how they all culminate, because I know they think the way I do. They're all thinking, how do we turn this into something that people can relate to? How do you build real communities? Because it's something brands have struggled to do. And often it's because of high-end restrictions and everything else. But before I dive into the red tape of social media within corporates, let's have a look at content theory. Before we jump into TikTok at all, we need to know how to think about social media from a brand perspective now, because they get caught in a lot of honey traps, one of which is probably not even on this list, is the culture of campaigns. So if anyone's quite familiar with how marketing works, you get a nice pot of budget for a certain objective. You put that budget there, you're flying sky high for 3 months, then everything disappears. That whole initiative is gone. And we're very used to that. And it's very weird, because the most successful people online, the kids in their bedrooms kicking the ass of multinational corporations on social media, they are consistently providing value over a long period of time. And all brands are kind of just looking at it and going, forget about it. Whereas that is where the real value is. And I think it's because we've lost some of the original meaning of marketing. Now, how I look at it is we are mixing too much of performance marketing and sales in with marketing as what it should be, especially when it comes to social media. For me, marketing is demand generation. Marketing shouldn't be, here, you put in this amount of money, you get X amount out. We look at it far too formulaically. We're not building relationships. We're not honing in on actually getting people to care about our brand. And you'll notice this from TV. Anyone that still has TV, which I haven't for the last few years, but I recently moved into a place that had Freeview, and I was scrolling through it and just noticed how uncreative TV ads have got. And I'm like, oh, okay, so there's barely any effort put in, because they're probably part of a wider digitally activated campaign that's chopped up and put in 1,000 different places. And you can look at automated bidding methods to get it where it needs to be for the best performance. And I don't actually remember what on earth the ad is, or the brand. It's just being optimized for that performance. And we are losing our creativity in amongst our need for performance marketing. So we need to get that back. And for me, that's done on organic social. Now, usually these sessions are kind of interactive, but I have a crowd at home and a crowd here. So usually ask the question, why is your brand even on organic social media in the first place? Like, why bother? If it's not, in your eyes, an ROI generating channel, why be there? And when I look at it through that lens, I usually get, oh, it's to drive traffic. It's to, build awareness of a product, all that kind of stuff. When really, organic social as part of the wider marketing mix should always be about building trust and real community and actually being authentic and yourself, no matter what type of brand or who you are, because authenticity for me is the key to the social castle. And a lot of the times that word is thrown around as a buzzword, authenticity. You never get into the actual crux of what on earth it is, and people just use it as a cracking LinkedIn post. But brands need to get over this hump to make sure they're doing things correctly, take the sales mentality out of organic social and leave that for their emails, their website, their TV ads, their whatever. They need to make sure that this is the place where we nurture and be ourselves and we don't sell. And I put these through practical filters, the first of which I call the Holy Trinity, right? Does each and every one of your posts or your monthly content, does it educate, inspire, or entertain? Because if it's not one of those three, really reevaluate what's on your page in the first place. What is it giving to someone? What value does it add, right? That's the first practical filter for value online. Second, is that piece of content shareable, savable, or worthy of a comment? Because these, for me, are the truest forms of engagement. It's so good, I'm sending it to someone else. It's so good that I'm going to actually write a comment with my human fingers, or it's so good that I'm saving it and I'm going to come back for later. For me, that's when traffic and click-throughs and follows come in after those three. But if I'm generating real interest and building real community, it will come out in the form of those first. So that's what we need to look at. And really, when we look at all of our brands, we need to create black and white lists of reasons people would follow you in the first place. So an exercise I like to do, get someone who's nowhere near familiar with your social media, get a piece of paper in front of them, let them scroll through your Instagram or your TikTok or whatever it is, and go, why would you follow this page? Why would you follow this strange brand, even if you know them from a national point of view? And you'd be surprised how little reasons you get out of it. And this is from a fresh content perspective deck we did not long ago that was, right, when we use TikTok differently, what are the reasons that we'd even have? So for us, if you're following Shogun, keeping up to date with the latest in social media, in-depth podcasts to build trust with our audience, functional tips for growth on social media, entertaining TikToks for the team, and just being a part of the journey of a startup, right? Those are at least 4 or 5 reasons why people would care in the first place. So as long as we're thinking like that from the top level, this is what helps TikTok perform better on the other side. And it's something we have to keep in mind quite a bit, actually. So let's dive in. So why TikTok in the first place? Well, we all know how much it's blown up over the last few years. The last 2.5 years, it's owned the app stores, right? Most downloaded app basically month on month, every single month. And it is pretty insane how large it's grown. To put it in perspective for everyone at home and here, when you look at the user base, it's over 1 billion users right now, and it's set for 1.5 billion users middle of this year. That puts it clearly in the top 3. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Instagram's just past the 2 billion mark, Facebook's almost at 3. So really evaluating the size of that audience means actually maybe it's not just Gen Z, which is what these statistics tell me when you look at Statista. Now, everyone just assumes that TikTok is, well, hey, dance trends, get in there, get the youngest person in the office to do some weird stuff, right? When actually the balance of the ages on TikTok I find fascinating right now. So 10 to 19 are 25% of users. 20 to 29, 22.4. 30 to 39, 21.7, 40 to 49, 20.3, and the 50 plus are 11%. So there's a 5% difference between 10-year-olds and 49-year-olds on TikTok. That's not something that our senior leadership is thinking about right now in terms of reaching people. And it's seeing things like that will make them think differently. Another thing that might help them think differently as well is think of TikTok in a very different way. TikTok is not a social media platform. It's a brand entertainment platform. So the same way we think of YouTube is the same way you need to think of TikTok. And TikTok is more competing with YouTube and Google than they are Facebook and Instagram, even though Facebook and Instagram are scrambling to get hold of those hours back, which is why we have Reels, and that's a whole other debate. But TikTok's own words. TikTok is a creative, diverse, and inclusive place where allows people to show up as their truest selves. Businesses that create authentic content, that feel native to the platform, are often embraced by our communities. Between the billions of videos, millions of users, and the thousands of sub-communities, there's a home for every business on TikTok. And we'll dive into that sub-communities element later. And it's a ridiculously simple platform. For anyone at home that doesn't have it, it's 2 places. It's your For You page and your following. They are testing other places, but that's by the by. Basically, your For You page is a continuous stream of new content. And 70% of all content on TikTok is digested there. So again, a different way we have to think when we're planning out for our brands is you have to create everything in the context that it's viewed by someone who's not following you, has no idea who you are. So it adds another layer of challenge onto the videos you have to produce at a wider scale, because now everything has to work for a complete stranger. And often with social, we're used to talking to an audience that already knows who we are because they're following us. Completely different dynamic. TikTok is in a golden age at the moment, you know. It's just past its 2-year mark. It's not too late by any means, but it's definitely harder to grow than it was a year ago. On a year ago, 2 years ago, you're YouTube 10 years ago, and we all wish we could go back and have a YouTube channel. But it's a really, really simple process, right? You optimize for a new user, a new customer, and then you look at these 3 things algorithmically. Watch time, caption and hashtag relevancy, and engagement. That's all the LinkedIn, that's all of the algorithm prioritizes. It's really, really simple and really, really effective. There is another layer to engagement that I need everyone to be aware of, and that's follow rates off the back of individual videos is now a statistic that TikTok is trying to push forward and is rewarding. So this is why brands, a habit they're not used to, is just saying, hey, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Audible calls to action have been missing from branded content for a while, but we're very used to seeing it in creators. Weave that into that, and it will help that statistic. So now our goal is to create 5 to 7 videos every week that guns for those. And it works in a very simple system. So if you rank well in each of those, TikTok is a pot system. So your video always gets served to the first 100, 200 people. This is why when you post on an account and it's kind of dead, or it's just starting, you have very similar starting places on your content. What it does is if you do well in that first pot of 100 to 200 people, you then go in the 1,000 to 2,000 pot, and so on and so forth. So this is why things blow up on TikTok, not the same as how they blow up on everywhere else. It's really, really interesting to see how that algorithm works, but it's a simple one, and that is our kind of blessing and curse. From a brand perspective, we need to get used to constant creative testing to make things work. And what I've done here, it's a bit wordy, I'll go through it, is basically the best practices on how we can do each thing. So, be human. Number 1, again, a bit of a buzzword, it's not that practical, but if your content is corporate or has a clear objective, it will never see the light of day, ever. It will just go straight down, even if you put ad spend behind it, good luck. TikTok needs its own unique strategy. It's 5 to 7 new original videos a week that's optimized for a new audience. You can't just borrow something from somewhere that's not intentionally made for the strategy. So if you're going to undertake it, be prepared because it's a unique challenge. Shorter videos tend to perform best because of those 3 things we looked at earlier. So it's not that you need to pigeonhole yourself into shorter videos, because TikTok's actually rewarding longer ones. As we said, it's trying to take a slice out of YouTube's pie. So when we do 10-minute videos, TikTok loves a bit of that. So don't be afraid to test it. But usually your watch time is larger when your video is shorter. It's just a common 2 and 2. Engaging daily, trying to win that most insightful, funny comment of the day, basically. You'd be surprised the amount of traffic you can drive, the amount of engagement you get just by adding in a solid comment somewhere on someone else's video. If you're going to launch the account and you have big targets to hit, try to do an account sprint, 2 to 3 videos a day, every single day. And it depends on what type of creator you are, which we'll look at next and coming soon. That will be the thing that will dictate if you can actually do that or not. As we said, watch time is the most important factor. Focus on the first 3 seconds of your videos. Now, out of all the elements we're going to talk about today, the hook at the start of your video is probably going to be the most important factor of performance. We all know it. So on average across social, and this is not just TikTok, you have 2 to 3 seconds to stop someone's thumb organically. So realistically, we need to do something either off the wall crazy or very specific to that person to make them stop. Because essentially we want their attention for free, so we have to earn it. So you can take something like how to grow on TikTok to, if you need to grow on TikTok, you need to watch this video. Bang, dynamics change, that's now the hook of your video. And the creative testing amongst those is what we need to think about as marketers. Understanding the culture of stitches, duets, and answering your comments by video. There's a whole separate content stream of people that basically run their channels by replying to other people's questions or reacting to things. It's just a whole subsection of content. We have to be in there, we have to get it, and we have to participate. As brands also, can't be just creators in this. Don't be afraid to trend hop. If you can do trends, obviously a nice little piece of engagement, it's fun, but don't just trend hop, because then you're left with no depth to your account. There's no reason I would follow you apart from a funny meme, and that's it. I'm not going to jump over to my following to see a video from you if it's just nothing but whatever's going on in the world. And lastly, steal some successful models. There's some really successful models from Duolingo especially. Now, has anyone heard of Duolingo? I'm sure you have. They're the language app. And one day on TikTok, there were 114,000 followers, and they were like, we need to change it up. They were doing educational videos, guess that word, how do you say this in Spanish, the things you'd expect them to do. And then one day they decided to put a giant bird suit on and do every meme under the sun, right? Changed the dynamic completely. And this was just after the pandemic, so this was very new, and no brand had made that move yet. This is something to think about. They went from 114,000 to 1.1 million followers in a month. Something that's really impressive, but cannot be replicated again, in my opinion, because of how much TikTok has evolved as a platform. And if you're handed the unique challenge of going, right, boss says, here's the TikTok account, it's new, launch it. Oh, brilliant. It's really tough to do, but it can be done. Is a launch considerations. What are the key words I need to be thinking about? TikTok and Google are going back and forth with the world's largest search platform, which is weird. Not to bring in AI as well, because that's a whole other debate, but people are now TikToking things instead of Googling things. I'm not sure if it's a habit you guys are in yet, but when it comes to top 5 spots in London to take your other half to Valentine's Day, I'm going to go on TikTok for that, so I don't have to scroll through complete crap on blogs and ads until I find my answer. And it's probably a sponsored post anyway, so it's probably not even that good. Or I can find actual human beings that are going out and finding the stuff I like. So search on TikTok is massive. And we'll touch on that a little bit more later. Your profile is up to date. Does it have those keywords we were talking about earlier so you can be found for the right things? Are there any audio and trends that match what your brand is doing at the moment? Don't underestimate it. What's the niche you're in, which kind of follows all of those three? And are there any creators in your space doing the right thing? And how can you either collaborate or emulate with them, but not be too copycat? And then comes the hard part. Boss says, I want to do this trend because I saw it on Facebook Reels 4 months later. Well, now I've got the problem of how do I get a TikTok trend approved? If you ever tried to explain a TikTok trend to someone who doesn't have TikTok, you sound like an insane person, right? So for me, the best method to do that is exactly how we plan it for all the brands we work with. Audio, idea, execution. What's the audio you have? Let's say it's a scene from Harry Potter emulating Snape or something. What's the idea and how can we trim it to who we are? So, I sell office space and I need to walk up and down it, swoosh my cape, right? It can be something like that. And then how do we execute it? So I need a person, I need a cape, and I need them to get it on time. And then we put that in some kind of structured doc so people can actually sign off the insanity of a trend, which again is a weird one to do. So feel free to steal that and use that because it's actually hard to plan out things. And also, when you're faced with the challenge of launching a TikTok or you're trying to build one, there is the practicalities from a business perspective. It's not talked about enough, the undertaking that an entire video channel is. If you were gifted, I want to grow a YouTube channel to 100,000 subscribers, that's a massive undertaking that will take years. And TikTok is basically the same level of effort, maybe down a couple of notches. So, who's comfortable on camera in your organization? Big one to look at. Who can you find? Who are your VIPs? Who are your content creators? And a lot of brands are opting to hire in-house creators now. Full-time job, just be in everything. YouTube, TikTok, Reels, because so much video content is required that now we're looking at sourcing actors, we're looking at sourcing students from the local university. How do we get everyone involved to create almost our own user-generated content? Do you have the capacity? If you're going to do it right. So can you post 2 to 3 videos a week and do it on the money? Do you understand the culture? Are you using stitches, duets, and comments? Do you have the trends locked down? Are you a native user? If you have a marketing manager that says, grow TikTok but doesn't have it, say, I refuse to do it until you download it and you know what you're getting yourself into. Because it's a big one. And staying on top of trends. It's just basically use the platform. But the problem you have with multiple people trying to use TikTok is everyone's For You page is structured around them. So imagine it's a cultured feed that knows who you are. So for those who don't have the platform, imagine how your YouTube homepage has always known what you want to watch, or that section on the right of YouTube always knows the next recommended video to give you. Imagine that but at scale. And everyone's YouTube account is different. Same with TikTok. So when you're doing research, do it through the branded account, or try and make sure we're all on the same level with that, because honestly, it's one of the practical things that people will fall down on, because they'll have a trend on their side of TikTok, which just makes no sense on the brand side of TikTok. So keep that in mind. But all that aside, now we've conquered all of those, you need a structure in which you can create lots of video content. Part of TikTok is volume. I've heard it described a lot as the Twitter for the spoken word. And you know what Twitter's like, you just bang out a tweet and there you are, and you can just have fun with it. So there's 4 archetypes that I see that are the most successful that I think brands could emulate. That's the easiest way you can slot in a model. So you've got the YouTuber, the trend hopper, the gossiper, and the podcaster. Now, you'll be familiar with some of these, but let's dive into the YouTuber. One of my favorite examples is a guy called James Hoffman. Absolute coffee nut, he's obsessed. And he actually runs a full-time YouTube channel on it. He's a creator in his own right. I'm not sure if he had a coffee company before or whatever, but very high quality, shiny content. But he shot the whole YouTube video in a way where it's just far enough back to repurpose it so it makes sense. He's just done it well enough and paced how he talks so he can clip out the bits he needs. And his entire TikTok has helped fuel the growth of his YouTube channel. So it's almost a bit of a chicken and egg going around situation. And for those brands who have deeper subjects to dive into, or have a lot of value to provide, and it will struggle to fit it into individual TikToks, actually doing a joint long-form and short-form strategy is not off the table if done correctly, because creators are already doing it. And you'll see this with a lot of podcasting things as well. You build a deeper relationship with your audience because they have something else to sink their teeth into afterwards. But then the main issue you'll face is your growth will be slower. You're not hitting on trends. You're not doing all the stuff algorithmically with answering comments and stuff, which you can, but his channel is purely powered by his YouTube content. But it shows it can be done if you have long-form content to repurpose. The trend hopper. Now, these will be the accounts we're most familiar of hearing about, right? Hootsuite, Lotus, Scrub Daddy, Duolingo, they all basically someone just went, just go nuts. And that's what they did. I'd say Lotus's account, if anyone's not following Lotus, do it. I've never seen such insanity in my life. You would not believe it as a luxury car brand. I mean, look, what is that? What is that? He's actively lip-syncing some video, and it's only that tiny Lotus there. So that creative freedom is not gifted to many of us in-house. So you have to kind of balance out how you're going to tackle it. Duolingo does it well because they don't actually have to have a face to put behind it. They can put the suit on and then do crazy things with the logo within scope. And Scrub Daddy's just Scrub Daddy. They're insane. They're basically just smiley sponges. But you've got to do something to make sponges interesting, I guess, and that's the beauty of e-commerce. It's crazy and unexpected content. It works better at the larger scale. So let's say, if I don't know who would do it. Porsche. If Porsche just decided to go, let's go nuts, no one would expect it, so therefore it gets that positive reception. Whereas if a smaller brand does it, it can work, but it just won't have the same, oh my God, effect. It has fast growth, but it tends to be very reactive. You can't get very much ahead, so you need time and resource dedicated to this. And there's a lack of depth. So all of them, there's nothing I can really sink my teeth into afterwards. But that's where the power of your other marketing comes in. If you need to actually learn how to speak Spanish, after he's finished jumping off the roof, you can figure out where to go, right? So that's one of the interesting ones. The gossiper. Now, this is such an interesting one for me because I think it's the content we should all be doing. And it's really as simple as taking your phone out of your pocket and going, guys, I was doing this thing the other day, right? And it's crazy. Doing something while you're doing something else. It could be making a cup of tea. It could be doing your makeup. It's whatever you're doing currently, but while providing value in a casual way. And often there's 2 reasons why this content works. One, that it's down to earth. I'm not feeling like I'm being sold to, and it's very person-based. There's a immediate person right there. You're looking into their eyes, parasocial bond, all that lovely stuff. But then also, whatever they're doing alongside it, whether it's makeup, whether it's making a cup of tea, whether it's cooking, which is another thing, you're following the progress of that end-to-end as well. So there's an element of the science of satisfaction that makes that content work. So if you can, do that because it seriously helps. It's down to earth and authentic. It's easy to produce en masse. You can sit down in an evening and just bang out 10 of these with every cup of tea or every meal or however you do it. But you need an engaged creator that's willing to put their face out there and willing to take that risk for your brand or for themselves. And there's a slight loss of quality if it's something that's important to your brand. So if you wanted to take the high-end, shiny approach of James Hoffman, you won't get that effect here. There's loads and loads of creators that do it this way. And I just picked these two, mainly because B2B Jade, if anyone's not following her, she creates incredible B2B marketing content on TikTok. That works. That wins her, I think, 70% of her clients on TikTok from B2B. Nuts. But it's entirely possible. And then there's one we'll probably all be familiar with, the podcasters. Alex Hormozy, Gary Vee, everyone and their mum is doing this approach right now. It's the very big, bold subtitles. It's the green and yellow text. It's the things that always pop up on the screen. And for them, they're busy business owners, so it's a way to activate your senior leadership. But getting them on their own podcast, guest starring in other podcasts, and repurposing the value they're putting out should be part of almost their sales journey. For me, this is one of my favorite methods of doing things, although I like to create a unique style with how I do podcasts, because often if everyone does the same subtitle style, it's just clear that you're copying, Alex, and it's just not the way you should do things. But it's an easy way to do high volume in a short amount of time, or to get those who are lesser socially friendly to do video content. So it's easier to convince your colleagues to sit down and have a chat and then record it than it is, hey, can you do this TikTok if you lip syncing a scene from Harry Potter? It's just not happening. So it's an easy way to get them into it and ease them into it. It's a popular method of communication. Right now, there's a podcast clip, probably every other thing we slide through, depending on the side of TikTok you're on. So it's not going to be received as, what the hell is this? Consistency is key, though. You still have to get someone in your team or yourself to sit down for an hour or so and create long-form content to chop up in the first place. So it's really important to look at that and figure out, can I actually spare that time or can I not? The quality of the speaker matters. This is where getting started in podcasting can be quite tough, because especially in your first 100 episodes, you should be more focused on how you can get good quality clips to drive traffic to that long form piece than you should the actual video, which is a weird reverse engineering of how we do things. There's only a few examples that are exceptions to that rule. Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO being one of them, but he's a unique case because he had money and resource to throw at the quality of the show first. Often if we're trying to start something in-house, you're kind of gifted, Zoom and go on, have a chat, and you can try and make something out of it. So it's your quality of your speaker then overcomes any quality issues you have when starting out. And obviously you want to invest in something once it's already got legs and it's going and it's easy to justify what you need to do. And the editing times are longer. Some poor editor has to sift through an hour of conversation to find those moments. There are AI tools coming out making this a lot easier, but it is still long, and sometimes they don't always get it right. So do keep it in mind. But those are the four that I think can be easily transferred as models for brands to use currently, so TikTok does not feel so alien. And to wrap things up, because this could be a whole half-day training if I let it, trust me. But there's 7 tips that kind of reverberate everything we were talking about, and really are really, really important to actually launching a channel. You must understand audio culture. TikTok is an audio-first platform, especially when it comes to trends. So what we're used to before TikTok is having a video, and I'll find the perfect track to go with that video, because I already have the vision. Whereas we need to go, there's my track. How do I adapt that? Because the audio is now more important than the video, depending on the sector you're in. Wrap your head around community talks. Can't understate how important it is to think you're on the right side of TikTok or you're on the wrong side of TikTok. Now, you'll know if you're falling into a pipeline you don't like, trust me. It's weird. And this can be used to varying degrees of evilness when we look at how somehow Andrew Tate got everywhere, and that was because of people falling into these pockets of nastiness. So there's good and bad parts about this, but from a brand perspective, you need to be on whatever your hashtags are and whatever the type of content that suits you most is. Perfect your intros and hooks. Don't be afraid to sit there when you're making a TikTok and record 3 different intros to see how each one performs and then give it a go after that, because those hooks are going to be the thing that make or break your watch time. Leverage trends. If you can get away with it, do it, because they're fun, they're engaging, and quite frankly, we all need to just kind of take a deep breath and relax on TikTok, because you can try and tackle it from lots of different ways, and if you come in a bit too corporate, it just doesn't work. You just need to, everything's chill, man, on TikTok especially. Optimizing your captions and hashtags, and this goes back to the importance of search. If you go in and search a hashtag right now that's relevant to your brand that you wouldn't think has any search traffic, there's a ridiculous amount of search traffic, right? Like, I can't understate how important social SEO is and will be for the next few years, especially on TikTok. And what a lot of brands don't look at is that they have the opportunity to be the first. Now, if we look at, let's say you're a glass manufacturer, how many glass manufacturers can we all think of on TikTok? No, that means it might be a hard challenge, but also it means that challenge is, oh, I can be the first. I'm the only glass manufacturer on TikTok. And there's still so many industries that are kind of dipping their toes in or haven't touched it, that land is just there for the taking. And when you think about how SEO and search is changing, how AI is affecting search patterns and how people use the internet, that is the human element that won't change in that sense. So as long as we can be on the front lines of search SEO, you can have those terms, you can keep creating within those. And again, it's an easy way to start a channel. It's probably another archetype. It's just answering questions on questions on questions and just being that face or that brand that does that. Stitches, duets, and answer your comments via video. Use the tools given to you. TikTok is a deep, creative platform that allows you to build a community in that comment section. It's probably the only social element of TikTok. So if you can, do it, because they're easy wins. If you've only got 2 videos out this week, cool, I'm just going to react to something and I'm going to answer a question, bang, there's my volume out. Just to keep the quota up, to keep the consistency on the path to growing your channel, especially when doing it in-house marketing. And of course, post consistently. Whether it's 2 days a week, 5 days a week, twice a day, every day for a month, consistency is going to be key. That's the same for everything in life, but consistency will always win the day on TikTok. And one of the quotes I love to end on, and I think it really, really makes sense, especially when we look at podcasting or creating content that's already done in an existing model, is from Naval Ravikant, and he says, "Escape competition with authenticity." If you're building something that's an extension of who you are, no one can compete on it. And I find that extremely true. It's on the end of all of my sales presentations, because you are the X factors. Everyone sat in the chair, everyone at home, you can find that person, or you are that person, to make a brand skyrocket because they can like you as opposed to a logo. How do you humanize? That's the practical meaning of humanizing content. Putting someone there, let them have a laugh, and let them provide value. And that, ladies and gents, is the show. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you, James. Do we have any questions in the room? If you do, can you just put your hand up and I will bring the mic to you. But also, if you have any questions online, please just use the chat function and we will ask the question for you here in person. So we're just going to jump in the room.
We're doing a live workshop. Diagnose everyone.
Hiya.
Hello.
That was brilliant, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do you think TikTok can sometimes attract a certain type of customer that tends to hop on the hype? So if you're a brand that wants to, for example, sell a product that has longevity and doesn't necessarily have a massive peak and then it falls and then it's over, what's the best way to tackle that?
It's interesting, and it's a bloody great question, because people are on different mindsets on different social platforms. If I'm on YouTube, I might be kicking back for the night. If I'm on LinkedIn, I might be more activated or actively trying to escape work, because it's the only one you can have open and get away with it. So there's lots of different elements and things to think about from the customer mindset. And this is why the wider marketing mix, and why I put that thing at the start to say, how do we think differently about social in general at the top? Because if we are following the same value-based approach everywhere, our channels will improve. And often TikTok is used as the filtration system to get to other places. So as a traffic driver, TikTok is outstanding. And then for me, if I want my TikTok traffic to go straight to my Instagram, and I can nurture them on my Instagram, because it just feels a better place. It's where, if I saw an Instagram story that was promoting a free masterclass that I was doing, that feels right. Like, it wouldn't feel right with me trying to promote that on TikTok, for instance, or as like a graphic on my feed. So send that traffic to the right places and put the right content on the right platforms. Obviously, you want as universal strategy as possible to minimize resource, but it's absolutely possible to do by using TikTok in the right way to send traffic to the right places.
We have a question here online that's come in.
Hit me.
Looking at the different social media platforms, What are the disadvantages now of Facebook, Twitter, against now the new almost video type platforms such as TikTok and Insta?
How much time do you have? Settle in, everyone. I think we need more drinks. So the disadvantages are many for some of them. But again, I look at platforms as individuals. They are for different use cases for different things. So Twitter, if done correctly, can be absolutely incredible. But if you have restrictions that stop you from using Twitter, it's the worst because you just are posting stuff to absolutely no one. So part of Twitter is engaging as much as possible. It's being part of the community. It's riding on the waves of whatever's happening in the world. If you're not doing that, or your brand guidelines say you can't, or you don't even have your comments turned on, there's literally no point in Twitter. Dump it in the bin. In regards to Facebook, if you've got budget, it's a great place to be. Or if you've got an existing following, it's a great place to be. But trying to start a business on Facebook now, if I gave you all a fresh startup and I said, here's one Facebook page with 0 followers, you're going to have a hard time. It's not fun. To give you an example, we're nearly 1,000 followers on Instagram, nearly 2,000 on LinkedIn, just over 700 on TikTok, because I don't take it as seriously as I need to. I need to take my own advice. When you look at it from that sense, my Facebook has stayed as the same 60, 70 people I invited when I first started the business 2.5 years ago. Hasn't moved an inch, unless someone's found us manually from like meeting me at an event, because I always know who that is. So they do not prioritize people who aren't spending. And when you actually press Facebook to see the post options, I'd say 50 to 60% of them are actually just calls to actions for an ad. Mark Zuckerberg is very clear on what he wants people to do, and is also investing heavily in the metaverse. So over the next few years, we will see the decline of Facebook, and they will disperse to other places. So there's advantages and disadvantages, because let's be real, everyone's audience is on Facebook. As an ad platform, untouched. If you already have an audience on there, it'd be absolutely outstanding, because community aspects are huge. But if you don't have that, it's tough. But those are, I'd say, the advantages and disadvantages of both Facebook and Twitter, especially.
You're a B2B business.
Aye.
So what are the tips for a B2B business or B2B to C business versus B2C?
It's such an interesting question. So I love to work with B2B organizations. I'd say 70% of our client base are B2B, or they're public sector. And the reason is that if you give me, a bottle to sell from an e-commerce platform, I can't do too much with that unless you give me a big budget, or you give me influencers, or you let me go balls to the wall, do crazy stuff on trends like we saw earlier. But if you don't give me that, all I can do is post pretty pictures of the bowl. Whereas if you give me a B2B organization that has real value to provide to real people, that for me is a more exciting challenge, because then I can activate the individuals within your brand. So that's the first thing I'd say. You need to find the internal content creators you have, figure out what they're good at and what they can help people with, and then help them help people digitally. So that's, doing Q&As, that's creating them on podcast, and essentially being very person-centered. I often say there's kind of no such thing as B2B marketing. There's only B2C, but they just happen to work for a company. Because for some reason, B2B marketing has got to this point where we're almost marketing to the logo instead of marketing to the individual. So literally, what I often tend to do is the best starter place, find your first 10 to 15 FAQs you'd have in a B2B sales call, and make individual pieces of content off of that, or create a podcast off of that as talking points. Because especially from how we help clients put together podcasts, if you're going to talk for an hour or half an hour every week, we're going to give you 10 to 15 topics to touch on. And now we know each of those is a guaranteed clip that can help a customer. And you can activate that in many different ways. It's an email roundup. It's individual things you can send out for sales. Instead of cold LinkedIn outreach, just say, hey, we know you work in a sector we talked about on the podcast last week. Let me know what you think of the content, and let that be the starter for your outreach. It's so much nicer. So having B2B organizations is brilliant, because you have the advantage of no one thinking you're going to do anything good, because everyone expects B2B to be boring to boring. So just go nuts, essentially, but activate the human beings, and you'll be winning every time.
Question.
Hit me.
Let's say I'm in budget building mode. How much budget would I put against this?
It depends on, right? So there's channels like TikTok, and you could basically bootstrap any social channel. And that's what I always recommend doing. This is why we're organic first. My organization goes, right, how much money can we make you without having you to actually ad spend with Mark Zuckerberg? Right, I don't want to do it. So realistically, it's about how do you bootstrap TikTok, Maybe you become the creator. Maybe your co-founder does. Maybe you start a podcast together and edit the clips every week with each other. Or use work experience from the university to create your clips, or use Fiverr as a way to create cheaper content output. Really what you need to build good revenue is to give yourself a content engine, whether that's asking questions on TikTok, whether that's creating a podcast. As long as you have a method to produce loads of videos, that is where you need to be, because that's what helps you grow the most. So I'd say that's probably the most useful thing. If you're building budget and you're like, how do I do as much as I can for free? Use yourself as that creator, or one of your co-founders, or however it works, because people, again, are the X factor, and some people can be free. Can be.
Hello.
Hello.
We would like to know, so I don't know if it's our generation, but we seem to think that TikTok is at the top, but used to be YouTube in particular, but really for us, we spend most of our time on TikTok, hence why we're here. How long do you think this is going to last? Because obviously you mentioned Instagram and Reels. Are they going to try and take over? We like the short engagement. I feel like I like the bursts of podcasts, and then it makes me go onto YouTube to look at the podcast. That works for me. The Instagram Reels don't really work for me personally. No. Do you think, is TikTok going to stay at the top? Are we going to see, Facebook take a wave, or Instagram? Just in your professional opinion, do you have any inside scoop?
Yes, the inside scoop for me is seeing how different generations are interacting with those platforms, right? So my mum is still only using Facebook right now, classic, and now she's sending me links to Facebook Reels. Like I'm some kind of animal, like I'm actually going to watch them. Sorry if you're watching, Mum. But realistically, right, people are enjoying short-form content everywhere. So who's going to win the battle, I don't know. What I know, usually the causational factor of which platform wins is who has the stronger creator economy. And that usually is who can make this platform their full-time job. So the ones that reign supreme at the moment are YouTube and Twitch. Those are usually the most monetizable places. So when you look at that and you look at how people can make a living, they'll probably lean towards that. Instagram are introducing things they call bonuses to reward creators for posting into Reels if you meet a certain sector. YouTube is also monetizing Shorts this year. So YouTube Shorts often goes missed. YouTube Shorts is probably one of the best ways to grow a YouTube channel now, because it actually gives you way more views than your full video. It's really hard to grow your first YouTube channel. If you ever heard Mr. Beast, he says, basically forget about getting any views for your first 100 videos. Make 100 videos and come back to me, because you will not get anywhere until you've done that. It's almost giving your due time to YouTube. So creators right now, their biggest frustration with TikTok is that it does not pay them very well. They have this program called TikTok Pulse, which isn't working out very well. I think it's only US-centric. But to actually make the average US living on TikTok, I think it's something you have to be pulling over 1 billion views every month to make $33,000 a year. Yeah, exactly. So this is why lives are so important. But I feel like lives are kind of degrading for some creators, because they're basically having to kind of dance for my dinner, please. And it's just like, can you please help me? So they're probably getting quite sick of that, to be honest. So YouTube might be the place they migrate to. So I think the great war we'll actually see is between Google, YouTube, and TikTok, and then Instagram and Facebook, and be like, please keep me relevant, at least from how I can see it.
Any more questions in the room? Any questions online?
Sold.
Sold TikTok. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. For those of you in the room, but also for you joining at home, can we have a huge round of applause for our TOG Talk tonight? James.
Thank you.